Welcome to our channel, where we uncover some of the most fascinating and ultra-rare Lincoln pennies you've ever seen. These tiny copper coins might look ordinary, but some carry secrets and values that can shock even the most seasoned collectors. Stick around as we explore pennies that have transformed pocket change into priceless treasures. A single penny, the smallest, lightest coin in most people's wallets, once sold for more than a brand new luxury car. A single cent, often tossed into a jar, dropped on a sidewalk, or forgotten in a junk drawer, shocked the collecting world when it brought in tens of thousands of dollars at auction. It's hard to imagine something so common becoming something so valuable, but that's exactly the story of the 1972 Lincoln penny. At first glance, it's nothing special. It doesn't sparkle with silver or glint like gold. It's not thick like a dollar coin, nor is it from the 1800s or some long-forgotten mint. In fact, most people have probably seen dozens of these pennies without giving them a second thought. The 1972 Lincoln cent is about as ordinary as American coins get, or so it seems. What makes this story so fascinating isn't a dramatic minting error or a wildly experimental design. It's not about an obscure variety or a once-lost hoard. It's about condition. It's about rarity where you least expect it. And it's about the relentless attention to detail from collectors who know how to spot value in even the most overlooked coins. Let's back up for a moment. In 1972, the United States Mint was producing coins in massive quantities. The Denver Mint alone struck over 2.6 billion Lincoln cents that year. These pennies featured the same design introduced in 1959, Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile on the obverse, with the Lincoln Memorial standing tall on the reverse. The design itself was created to honor Lincoln's 150th birthday, and it remained unchanged for decades. Clean, simple, symbolic, it was part of everyday American life. For kids, the Lincoln cent was often the first coin they ever collected. For adults, it was just spare change. But among those 2.6 billion pennies struck in 1972, only a microscopic number were perfectly preserved, and that's where the magic lies. When a coin is minted, it's at its purest, most flawless state. No scratches. No blemishes. No fingerprints. But from the moment it drops from the press, anything can happen. Coins hit each other in large bins. They get shoveled into bags and boxes. They're sent out to banks, jostled around in delivery trucks, handled by machines, and touched by countless hands. Copper, the metal used in pennies at the time, is especially soft. It doesn't take much for a penny to show signs of wear. A nick here, a scratch there, even a light rub can impact its surface quality. Over time, these minor marks accumulate, and the once perfect coin becomes just another well-worn piece of change. But once in a great while, a few coins somehow escape all of that. Maybe they were pulled aside at the bank. Maybe they were tucked away by someone who had an eye for quality. Maybe they ended up in a mint set that stayed sealed for decades. However it happened, a tiny number of 1972 pennies avoided the fate of their billions of siblings, and remained untouched. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC use an extremely precise scale to evaluate coins, ranging from 1, poor, to 70, perfect. For modern coins like the Lincoln cent, anything graded mint state 65 or higher is considered above average. Mint state 66 is excellent. But mint state 67? That's the elite tier. And if the coin has retained its brilliant red copper tone, untouched by oxidation or discoloration, it's given the coveted red designation. That a 1972 penny in MS67 red is rare. Incredibly rare. In fact, just a few dozen may exist. Out of billions, that rarity doesn't just appeal to casual collectors. It triggers intense interest from registry collectors, the type who compete to build the finest sets of coins graded by third-party services. These are collectors who don't just want an example of each coin. They want the best-known examples in existence. For them, a top Lincoln cent can be the missing piece in a competitive set. And when that coin appears at auction, it doesn't go unnoticed. That's exactly what happened when one of the finest known 1972 Lincoln cents came to market. It had been graded MS67 red by PCGS, one of the highest grades ever given for this coin. It had full red color, razor-sharp strike details, and no visible flaws, even under magnification. To many, it looked like it had just been minted yesterday. The bidding was fierce. Seasoned collectors knew how rare this opportunity was. They knew they might never see another coin of this quality for sale again. And as the bids climbed higher and higher, so did the shock, not just for casual observers, but even for those inside the numismatic world. By the end of the auction, the final price reached a staggering $83,000. That's right. A single cent, made in 1972, with a D mint mark, sold for more than most people's annual salary. Why? Because it was perfect. Because it survived. Because it told a story that stretched across decades, from a crowded mint floor in Denver to the pristine cases of a modern auction house. Stick around, we're just getting started. Next up, we've got a coin that most people have handled without ever realizing what it could be worth. It's one of those coins that quietly slips through pockets, cash drawers, and coin jars, until one perfect example shocked collectors and sent auction prices soaring. We're talking about the 1985 D Lincoln penny, a 1-cent coin with a value that, in the right condition, has rivaled the price of a luxury car. Now, let's put this into perspective. 1985 wasn't a particularly rare year for U.S. coinage. In fact, it was quite the opposite. The Denver Mint struck over 5.2 billion Lincoln cents that year, more than enough for every person in the U.S. to have about 20 of them. For most people, the 1985 D penny was just background noise in everyday life, something you used without thinking, dropped on the floor, or let disappear into the cracks of your car seats. The design wasn't new either. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile had been appearing on the obverse of the penny since 1909, and the reverse still showed the Lincoln Memorial, a design that had been in use since 1959. It was a coin that didn't stand out, not for its design, not for its metal, and certainly not for its age. So how did a coin like that become so valuable? The answer lies in a perfect storm of three things: timing, condition, and collector demand. By the 1980s, the mint was producing coins faster than ever, using high-speed presses and bulk packaging systems. The result? Most coins were struck adequately, but not with the same precision or care as earlier eras. Add to that the soft copper-plated zinc composition, and you had coins that scratched easily, spotted quickly, and lost their luster fast. In fact, 1985 was a particularly difficult year for quality control. Many cents from that time show weak strikes, inconsistent coloration, or early signs of oxidation, even straight from bank rolls. This made it especially rare for any coin from that year, and that mint, to emerge in near-perfect condition. Collectors often refer to these years as the modern minefields, high mintage, low survival in top grades. That's why certain coins, like this one, command serious attention when they surface, but somehow, a small handful of 1985 D pennies did survive, with brilliant surfaces, strong detail, and pristine finishes. Whether they were pulled aside by a sharp-eyed bank teller, sealed in a mint-issued set, or simply forgotten in a collector's drawer, these coins managed to avoid the rough handling most others faced, and this is where things start to get interesting for serious collectors. See, in the world of coin collecting, perfection matters more than age. A coin that's rare and high condition, even if it's modern, can be far more valuable than one that's older but worn. That's where registry sets come into play. These are collections where people compete to own the highest graded example of every coin in a particular series. And when only a tiny handful of coins exist at the top of the grade scale, collectors will go to great lengths, and great expense, to get them. That's exactly what happened with the 1985 D penny. A single example surfaced that had it all: sharp strike, blazing original red color, and flawless surfaces, even under high magnification. It was graded and certified by one of the top third-party services, and instantly became a target for registry builders. When it hit the auction block, there was no mistaking what was about to happen. Seasoned collectors, investors, and coin enthusiasts recognized immediately what they were looking at. This wasn't just a well-preserved coin, it was possibly the finest 1985 D penny known to exist. For a modern 1-cent piece to generate that kind of attention, it had to be exceptional, and the bidding war was intense. Within minutes, the coin shattered expectations. The final price? An eye-popping $72,000. That's $72,000 for a coin that originally cost just 1 cent. Not because of what it was made from. Not because of some famous printing mistake. But because it was perfect, and perfection, in a sea of billions, is incredibly rare. Think about how many people handled these coins over the years. How many ended up in vending machines, ashtrays, or grocery store change. And yet, this one coin, this one survivor, had avoided it all. Untouched. Undamaged. Preserved against the odds. It's this kind of story that makes coin collecting so fascinating. Because it proves that value doesn't always come from rarity in quantity, sometimes, it comes from rarity in condition, and it makes you wonder, how many more coins like that are out there? Tucked away in forgotten piggy banks? Hidden in old rolls? Sitting in plain sight, waiting for someone to take a closer look. This 1985 penny is a reminder that history hides in the details, and fortune can hide in the most ordinary places. It's not about luck alone. It's about knowing what to look for. Having the patience to search. And having the curiosity to ask, could this coin be something more? So the next time you're handed a few pennies in change, don't be so quick to toss them in a jar. Give them a second look. You might just be holding something truly extraordinary. Next in our lineup is a coin that might be sitting quietly in a drawer near you, completely overlooked. It's a coin you've likely seen dozens, maybe even hundreds of times in your life. But under the right circumstances, in a very specific condition, this tiny copper-colored piece has sold for a price that's nothing short of astonishing. This is the 1994 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark at face value. It's as ordinary as they come. No bold errors, no wild misprints, no unusual design. But it's proof that even a common coin can become a collector's dream when it checks all the right boxes. And for this one, when the stars aligned, it became a small coin with a very big price tag. Let's rewind for a moment. 1994 was a transitional era in American coin production. The country was between generations. Technology was shifting. And while the coin's design hadn't changed for decades, public attitudes about small change were starting to. More and more people viewed pennies as throwaways, something to leave behind in tip jars or drop on sidewalks. But that's exactly what makes this story fascinating, because amid billions of coins being spent and forgotten, a few were saved, and one of them turned out to be one of the finest examples the U.S. Mint had ever produced that year. The obverse of the 1994 penny features Abraham Lincoln's side profile, just as it had since 1909. He's facing right, surrounded by the words, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," to the left, and the date, 1994, on the right side. The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial, complete with tiny details, including the barely visible statue of Lincoln between the columns. This reverse design, introduced in 1959, had become a familiar image for over 3 decades by then. Now, unlike coins from the Denver or San Francisco mints, Philadelphia-issued pennies typically have no mint mark. So when you look at a 1994 penny and don't see a little letter under the year, that's completely normal. What's not normal, however, is finding one in near-flawless condition. Let's talk about production. Over 6.5 billion Lincoln cents were struck at the Philadelphia Mint that year. With that kind of volume, these coins weren't exactly handled with white gloves. High-speed production meant lower precision. It was all about quantity, not quality. Most coins from 1994 show signs of weakness in strike, soft details, fading lines, and uneven edges. Add to that the cheap copper-plated zinc composition used at the time, which wears, spots, and corrodes quickly, and you've got a recipe for coins that don't age well. That's why pristine examples are so rare. Most pennies get banged up within weeks. A trip through a soda machine, a fall on pavement, a quick run through the wash, and suddenly that coin loses any chance of ever reaching the top grading tiers. So how does one single 1994 penny survive all of that? Perfectly, in this case, someone either pulled it directly from a fresh bank roll or purchased it as part of an uncirculated set and stored it away without ever touching it. The coin stayed protected from light, moisture, oils, and air. Over the years, while most of its siblings ended up scratched, dirty, and worn, this one remained exactly as it left the mint, untouched, glowing with brilliant red luster, and that's when collectors take notice that in modern coin collecting, perfection is king. While age and rarity are important, modern coins graded at the highest levels, especially in mint state 69 or above, can command shocking premiums. Why? Because so few make it to that level. The coin has to be nearly flawless under magnification. No nicks, no hairlines, no smudges. It's an elite club of coins that have survived the minting process and decades of storage without a single flaw. When one of these 1994 no-mint mark pennies was graded and certified by a top-tier service, PCGS, it entered that elite club. Not because of any printing error. Not because of an unusual strike. But because it was just that perfect that it became the coin that all registry collectors needed. You see, registry sets are competitive. Collectors try to build the highest graded set of Lincoln cents, year by year. And when only one or two coins exist at the top grade for a particular date, the demand skyrockets. The coin becomes a centerpiece, a showpiece, and the bidding starts. When this one came up for auction, collectors knew it wouldn't be cheap. But no one expected how far the bids would go. The auction house filled with anticipation. Online bids poured in. Veteran collectors went toe-to-toe. As the price climbed, the room fell silent. Everyone watching knew, this wasn't just a penny anymore. This was a crown jewel in modern U.S. coinage, and then, the gavel dropped. That humble 1994 penny, which most people wouldn't glance at twice, had sold for an incredible $57,000. $57,000, for a 1-cent coin. That's the power of condition. Of preservation. Of knowing what to look for. And it's proof that coin collecting isn't just about age or metal, it's about detail, rarity, and story. So the next time you sort through coins, don't ignore the newer ones. Look closely. Study the details. Because even the most common year can hide an extraordinary survivor. Next up is a coin that might seem like pocket change, but its story is anything but ordinary. It's a 2001 Lincoln penny, no mint mark, a coin that most people have spent, lost, or ignored. But one rare example of this very coin shattered expectations and sold for a truly unbelievable amount. Now, you might be wondering, what makes a modern penny worth more than a used car or a luxury vacation? That's where this story gets interesting. Let's go back to 2001. It was a time of dial-up internet, bulky cell phones, and flipped calendars. But in the world of U.S. coinage, it was business as usual, and the Lincoln cent was still the most produced coin in America. By that year, the Lincoln Memorial reverse design had already been in use for over 40 years, first introduced in 1959 to mark Abraham Lincoln's 150th birthday. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 5.6 billion 1-cent coins that year, without a mint mark, as is typical for coins from that facility. And that's just one mint. When you combine that with Denver's production totals, 2001 becomes one of the most common years in the entire Lincoln cent series. So how can a coin that's so common turn into a collector's jackpot? The answer lies in survival, rarity in top condition, and collector demand. Out of billions of coins, the overwhelming majority enter circulation quickly, jingling through pockets, rattling in change trays, scraped across counters, and forgotten in dusty drawers. Zinc-based pennies like those struck after 1982 are especially vulnerable. Their copper coating is thin, and once that's breached, the zinc underneath corrodes easily. Even fresh coins from mint rolls can develop spots, streaks, or microscopic flaws. That's why collectors obsess over condition. They're not just looking for a coin that's old, they want one that looks untouched, flawless, as if it just emerged from the coining press. Now, imagine one of those 2001 Lincoln pennies, no mint mark, copper-plated zinc, preserved so perfectly that under magnification, not even the tiniest blemish can be found. No toning. No contact marks. The original red luster glowing across the fields, every detail sharp and frosty. That's what happened here. A coin like this often comes from a sealed mint set, stored carefully in a climate-controlled space, never opened, never handled. Over time, as coins age, many degrade slightly. But a few, by sheer luck and careful preservation, remain pristine. This particular 2001 penny was eventually submitted to a top-tier grading service. Trained eyes inspected it under lighting and magnification, evaluating strike sharpness, surface preservation, luster, and eye appeal. It was assigned a near-perfect grade, a tier that only a microscopic fraction of coins ever achieve. Suddenly, this ordinary-looking penny was anything but. It had transformed into a collector's trophy, and for those who chase registry sets, competitive collections of the finest examples, a coin like this isn't just valuable. It's essential. Owning it means setting your collection apart from thousands of others. It becomes a status symbol, not because of its age, but because of its condition, rarity at that level, and the fierce demand for the finest known example. So when this coin hit the auction block, word spread quickly. Enthusiasts and investors took notice. The bidding began. At first, the numbers ticked up modestly. But then something shifted. As news of the grade and condition reached the top of the collector food chain, the race began. Bidders competed from across the country. Online platforms lit up. Phone lines stayed busy. And slowly, the price climbed from hundreds to thousands, and then into shocking territory. When the final bid was placed and the virtual hammer fell, the once overlooked 2001 penny sold for $39,000. That's right. 1 cent, exchanged for $39,000. And what makes this story so powerful is how accessible it really is. Unlike ancient Roman coins, colonial rarities, or gold double eagles, this coin was born in the same generation many of us lived through. It wasn't rare at the time. It isn't made of precious metal. It just survived better than the rest. That's the magic of modern numismatics. The hidden gems are out there. In jars. In rolls. In long-forgotten sets. And while not every coin will strike gold, the next big discovery could be waiting in your change tray right now. So what should you look for? First, pay close attention to condition. Look for brilliant, red-toned pennies with no visible flaws. Check the details on Lincoln's beard, coat, and hair. Examine the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. If it looks too good to be true, it might be something special. If you think you found a gem, submit it to a reputable grading company like PCGS or NGC. Their certification is what unlocks the full collector value. Because without a professional grade, even the best-looking coin is just a guess, and that's what makes this 2001 penny so incredible. It started as just another cent. But thanks to perfect preservation, the right timing, and collector demand, it became a headline, a reminder that numismatic history isn't just in the past. Sometimes, it's sitting quietly in a coin folder, waiting for its story to be told. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe for more amazing coin stories. Got a rare coin? Share it in the comments. We love hearing your stories and discoveries. Stay tuned for more incredible finds coming soon. Thanks for watching. Happy collecting.